Okay. What did he say?
Good afternoon. It is a great day to be a Kiwanian. Kids need Kiwanis, and Kiwanis needs you. Before we stand, I just want to say I missed you last week, and I heard we had a few that came to be with us last week, and we were not here, and I hope you guys went out to lunch. So I am glad to be here today, glad to see each of you. I have a fun fact, but we're going to hold that for next week because we have a full agenda today. So we'll move right on in. If you'll please stand so we can say our defining statement. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clay, will you lead us in song?
I will try. You will need your book. All right, page 37, and it's song number 74, Home on the Range. Now, I am not sure the younger people in the club know this song, but I'm positive the older or more mature people know this song. So let's start. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play. Where sound is heard, a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
That was wonderful. Thank you. And can I just tell you, you guys are a great looking group. I am happy to see so many of you here who I've not seen in a while.
Stacy told me to pray very quickly. Last time I had the privilege of leading this group in prayer, my friend Robert Cooper was a little afterwards. He said, "You went too long." He said, "You went from praying to preaching."
We're taking up minutes.
All right. That's what happens when you give a lawyer a microphone. I'll give you a thought and then prayer. First, in a recent gathering of bishops called a synod, Bishop Francis identified 3 words for the event to be successful: communion, as we are here, mission, which we just heard, and participation. Now let's go to prayer. Let us find you in our unity, that we may journey together to eternal life and not stray from the way of truth and weigh what is right. Teach us the way we must go and how we are to pursue it. We are weak and sinful. Do not let us promote disorder nor partially influence our actions. Amen. Short enough?
Good job. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move into membership welfare. First, we're going to do guests, but before we start recognizing our guests, if you have a guest, please stand. We're going to get a microphone to you. And I want you to see all these guests on the screen. Welcome. I see some faces I hadn't seen in a while. I'm not going to call everybody by name, but we want to call everybody's name, then we will. I see lots of faces, and I see Phil, I see people hollering out, you just recovering from a surgery. So good to have you. And there's somebody in the dark, but I see you. So who is standing? Who has the microphone? Oh, fantastic.
Yes, I have a guest here with me today. This is Emily Stack. She is from Pinehurst, and she has been involved in the Kiwanis chapter down there, doing some volunteering stuff. So
Welcome, glad to have you. Well, yeah. And just in essence of time, we will applaud everyone at the end if that's okay, but we're glad to have you. Who is next?
Thank you. Yes, I do have a guest. Celeste, stand up. My stepmom, Celeste Parker, is here with me today, and we are here to listen to her brother, Henry Barnette's speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Other guests, I have a daughter exiting right. That is my daughter, Mary Addison, so we're glad to have her. She's recovering from ACL surgery. And we have some more guests. Stand up so you can introduce your guest.
I probably should introduce myself. I have been here several months. Ken Kirby, and this is my wife, Jill.
Hi, good to see you
We
both.
came to see what Judge Barnette had to say. And by the way, there are two very historic moments that will occur 4 days from now. One is a commemoration of the D-Day invasion, and the second one is Judge Barnette's birthday.
All right, and we have another guest. Do we have another guest? Okay.
I have revisiting with me today Sanu and Bishoy. They're my teammates at Blackwell Mortgage.
Fantastic. I'm happy to see you again. Okay, that is great. Now we'll do membership welfare.
Okay, we have a number of membership welfare items, and we're happy to see Phil Kirk on the screen. As you know, he broke his hip and his leg, and he's in vocational rehabilitation as well as physical rehabilitation, and is doing great. His mail is, that's right, a good round of applause for him. He's done so much for this club. He receives his mail at home, so if you want to send him a card, that's the best place to address it, to his home address, which is in the Kiwanis directory. And other membership welfare items, Jim Walbrink is at home ill with long COVID. Please remember him in your thoughts and prayers. We have Randy Hartley back with us today, and we appreciate Randy being with us. Glad you're fine today. You're here, you're looking good too. And another membership welfare item is former member Audrey Ray has died, and we want to remember she and her family in our prayers. She's one great thing about her. She was a member of the Shagging Hall of Fame.
Woohoo!
When she was a member of our club, it's Audrey Spainhour.
Okay, fantastic. Audrey Spainhour Ray. Okay. Are there any other membership welfare items that I did not cover? If not, thank you.
Thank you. Can you help me with announcements, Buck? So Dave, I think, has an announcement about the baseball game.
Well, it's that time of year again, folks, and we've had great participation the last 2 years. I hope you all consider coming this year. The information on the game is June 22nd, which is a Thursday night, and there is a sign-up sheet in the June newsletter that I would encourage you to use the online sign-up because it greatly keeps our mistakes to a minimum. Last year, we had a few people who thought they signed up and we didn't have record of it, and we had to scramble to get extra tickets at the last minute. So help us out, sign up online. Your tickets will be sent online, whether you sign up there or there are sign-up sheets on the table. I apologize for not having pencils. My senior memory overlooked that this morning, but maybe your neighbor has some. You could sign up on these sheets too, and we will collect them and add them to the list. So if you have any questions, see me or Courtney. My contact information is in the newsletter there on that article. Yes, ma'am. Pardon? Of course. So you just need.
Ticket price.
The ticket prices this year are $15 per person. We're trying to defray the cost. Our price went up quite a bit from the Bulls. So that would help. It costs us about $40 or more per person. So we decided to put a minimal amount of a ticket charge there for that. So appreciate your encouragement and support on that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And is Robbie Wooten with us today? I want to thank Robbie. He served at the Salvation Army last Friday night, and we're very grateful for that. We know we love the pancake breakfast. Everybody thinks that is and I agree, that is a wonderful day, but we need some leadership. So I need some volunteers. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand right now, but come see me after the meeting. We've had some volunteers step up. Gwen has volunteered to lead the financials. Francis has volunteered with sponsorship. If I've left your name out and you have volunteered, remind me. I'm very grateful for those who are stepping up. Yes, oh, that's right. And Josh is helping with, Jason is helping with signing up volunteers. So thank you very, very much. And so we do need additional volunteers. Introduce yourself to Jason as well. So thank you. We have a new member. Lucy, will you come right up here with me? Oh, and Hugh, are you going to be able to introduce your? Yep. So we have 3 members that attended the orientation last Thursday night. One will be inducted today. The other 2 will be inducted next week. But Lucy, come on up, and we're going to get your sponsor, your son, to introduce you.
Oh my goodness, y'all got me on the spot. Hey everybody, I'm sure you've had a chance to meet Lucy at this point, but lives in Pittsburgh and was thinking about joining clubs out that way, and I said, no, you've got to come to Raleigh to hang out with us. So from Washington, North Carolina, we've lived in the Triangle since I guess maybe 30 years or so, late 80s, and was a long-time Boy Scout executive and retired now and works on my real estate firm. We do real estate together.
He waited his whole life to be the boss of me.
But I'm excited that you're in the club with us, and I guess I will help you out with your pen.
We'll go through the process really quick.
All right.
So the vision of Kiwanis is to have positive influence in communities worldwide, so that one day all children will wake up in communities that believe in them, nurture them, and provide the support that they need to thrive. Lucy, having indicated a desire to become an active member of our Kiwanis Club, having been approved by our board of directors as a member, having gone through the club orientation, do you agree to embrace the vision of our club and the Kiwanis organization? Thank you. We welcome you to this global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving one child and one community at a time. Hugh, please present our newest member with her pen.
I'm just gonna put it up here.
On behalf of our entire membership, we welcome you to the Kiwanis Club of Raleigh. Join me after the meeting to sign Lucy's bib and welcome them to the club. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Well, our speaker today doesn't need an introduction because he's been a member of this club for 57 years. And if you haven't met him in any of those 57 years, you missed a real treat. He's a former judge. He retired from the Superior Court. He's been a very active Kiwanian. He is a undergraduate school at Duke, and then went to Wake Forest Law School. Join me in welcoming Judge Henry Barnette.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Buck. Since Ken Kirby called me out as to when my birthday was, well, it was displayed as well, but I just want to say this about him. He will be the same age as I am in 2 weeks. So I'll just say, my birthday was on D-Day, and I like to say that General Eisenhower gave me Europe on my 5th birthday. So that's what I like to say. But it says that I'm going to talk about the history of Memorial Day. No, when I talked to Buck about I would like to do this, I didn't give any specifics. So I assumed that he, because of my interest in history, he concluded that that's what I was going to talk about. Well, I don't know any more about the history of the day than any of you do. There's been some things in the paper about it in the past week or so, and I learned a lot that I know about it from that. But what I am going to talk about is why it's important and what message we can gather from it. Now, I'm not a veteran. I have not lost any family member or loved one in the service of our country. So what is my inspiration? This book, All Souls Day, an interesting title and a curious title. I didn't know what All Souls Day was. So I looked it up in a Christian dictionary that I have. And it tells me that the church in the Middle Ages established November the 2nd to commemorate and the people who have recently departed and their souls. That's what it is. Well, during the Reformation, the Protestant churches did not go along with that and don't celebrate it. That's why I didn't know what it was. But actually, it's about the date, November the 2nd. That's All Souls Day. Now, why was this book called that? I was reading the book. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with a battle during World War II. The only connection is that the battle began on November the 2nd, 1944, and lasted about a week. The battle is the Battle of Hurtgen Forest. Now, I think I know right much about World War II, the battles and the campaigns, but I had never heard of that battle before. And I mentioned that to Gary Pendleton and to Lou Murray. And they both told me, oh yes, we know about that battle. In fact, they told me they had been there. And I will say this, that Gary made this comment as well about that. You say you don't know anything about that battle? Well, the Army doesn't want you to know. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about. Because there is an adage that negligence and ineptitude or ineptitude in command fills up more military cemeteries than anything else. And this particular battle is proof positive of that. And I understand that this battle is taught in military schools, OSC schools, and it's kind of what not to do, an object lesson. Well, the book is about that battle, but it's also a profile of 6 soldiers, all of which died in that battle. I'm going to pick out one of them. And Celeste, this is going to be a surprise to you. First Lieutenant Julian Faria from Burgaw, North Carolina. I'm sure that you all probably know generally where Burgaw is. If you've ever been down I-40 to Wilmington, you will see the Burgaw exit. Burgaw is a small town, and I'm sure it's not much bigger today than it was when Julian Faria was growing up there. It is a county seat of Pender County. And Pender County is a very large county in area, but not in population. And Burgaw is centrally located. I think that's why it is the county seat. But anyway, why Julian Faria? Well, Julian Faria was the younger brother of my uncle, our uncle, and my father's and our father's brother-in-law and best friend. And even though I never knew Julian Farrier, because I was only 5 years old when he died, but I've heard about him all my life. But I didn't know anything about him except that he died. He was killed in Europe fighting the Germans. That's all I knew. Well, this book fills in the blanks on that. First Lieutenant Julian Farrier was born in Burgaw in 1916. He's a graduate of NC State. He has a bachelor's and a master's degree in forestry. He enlisted in the Army sometime 1942, 43, I don't know exactly when. He decided he went through boot camp and then decided he wanted to go into the infantry. His brother, my uncle, tried to dissuade him from going into the infantry. Go into something else, Julian. But Julian was insistent. And he wanted to go into the infantry. So he went to OCS Infantry School at Fort Benning. He came out a second lieutenant. He was assigned to the 1st Army, United States Army, under General Courtney Hodges. The 28th Infantry Division, commanded by Major General Nicholas Cota, the 112th Regiment, the 2nd Battalion, G Company. And at some point, he was promoted to 1st Lieutenant and became a platoon leader in the G Company. It was in 6 weeks after D-Day, probably around that time, that the 28th Division actually came to France, crossed the English Channel. And they were in some combat, but the biggest thing that happened was they were selected by General Eisenhower to represent the United States Army in the parade down the Champs-Élysées in Paris when Paris was liberated. Those were happy moments for the 28th Infantry. Then we get to November the 2nd. And the plan was for 3 regiments, including the 112th, Lieutenant Farrier's regiment, to enter the Hurtgen Forest. And the Hurtgen Forest, I didn't tell you this yet, but the Hurtgen Forest is just across the Belgian boundary with Germany. So it's barely in Germany. Okay, they were to go through the forest and end up at 3 villages or towns at the end of the forest. They were supposed to go there, seize those towns, and hold it. Well, the problem was, it was a bad time to do this. Now you can say hindsight will tell them that they were in trouble. Well, I say foresight should have as well. The weather was terrible. The temperature was near freezing. It was rainy. And you usually would expect that infantry, if you have control of the air, you're in good shape. That is, if the planes can get off the ground. They were grounded. So they had no air support. Not only that, no reconnaissance. They did not know where the Germans were. The Germans knew where they were, but they didn't know where the Germans were. I don't know that there's any more aggressive a general Then George Patton, commander of the Third Army, he took that week off on the grounds that it is not right. The weather is not right for an offensive performance. I don't know why General Hodges and General Cota didn't see it that way. Well, by November the 9th, trudging through the Hurtgen Forest, on November the 9th, a witness said that they saw a flash of light, and Lieutenant Farrier was dead. Then they had to encounter a German counterattack that they did not know existed. There were two German divisions against 3 regiments. One was an infantry division and one was a panzer division, which means tanks, right, Gary? And all of a sudden, these regiments were encountered that, and it was a slaughter. Here they come, just rolling over, and many of them were buried in their foxholes by the tanks. And a few got out, but most didn't, especially in the 112th and the 2nd Battalion. They were almost totally annihilated. Now, that's not the end of the story. The war ends. Then it's to go to that site and pick up the bodies, if you can find them, and bury them. And they found Lieutenant Farrier's body in 1949. He is now buried in a military cemetery in Belgium. There are actually 3 military cemeteries, 2 in Belgium and 1 in the Netherlands, from the dead from this battle. American soldiers dead are buried there, including Lieutenant Farrier. Well, it doesn't end there. As of 2019, there's still over 300 that are still out there buried. That's incredible. They're listed by the Army as missing in action. 75 years later, missing in action? As Gary would said, well, that's the way the Army is. But I mean, that is part of the tragedy of the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest. Gary tells me that a former member of ours, Ed Hipp, a longtime member, but he's been gone a long time too, was in that battle. Some of you might remember Ed Hipp. I don't know whether you do or not, but most of you probably don't. But Gary tells me he was in that battle and survived it. Okay, that's that battle, and what I'm talking about centers on World War II. Not from this book, but from another book I've read, a sea tragedy. The sinking of the USS Indianapolis. I'm sure some of you know about that. The USS Indianapolis was a heavy cruiser. The problem with cruisers is they do not have the submarine detection devices that destroyers have. And the war's almost over. 1945, late July maybe, I don't know the exact date. A lone Japanese submarine torpedoed the Indianapolis, and it sunk. 1,500 died as a result of that. So, some probably died as a result of the explosion, but most died as a result of being thrown into the sea, the Western Pacific, drowning, and worst of all, sharks. And when it was reported in the newspaper days later, the biggest takeaway was the sharks. 1,500 either drowned or attacked by sharks. Well, now I'm going to mention something about the Indianapolis that has nothing to do with Memorial Day. What was the mission of the Indianapolis? Okay, yeah, you got it. It was to sail from San Francisco to Tinian. Tinian is one of the Marianas, an island group not that far from Japan. And along with Saipan and Guam, it was taken by the United States Navy and Marine Corps, captured a year ahead of this, in July 1944. And it was a top secret that this ship was going to Tinian. It's already been indicated what the top secret was, probably, except for maybe the 4 or 5 people who were in non-naval personnel that were in charge of this top secret. Probably only the captain, maybe the executive officer, knew what the top secret was. Well, on July 26th, it delivered its cargo. Its cargo was the uranium and the firing mechanism for Little Boy. Little Boy is the code name for the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. As Paul Harvey would say, that is the rest of the story. Because on August the 6th, 1945, a B-29 called the Enola Gay, captained by Colonel Paul Tibbets, left Tinian carrying the bomb and exploded that bomb over Hiroshima. And the nuclear age was born. Now, I sit there and after reading this book, there's not only those who came home in flag-draped coffins, it's not only those who are in the military seminaries in this country and in the world, around the world, but those who were lost at sea, like the Indianapolis, those who were lost in aircraft disasters and their whereabouts are unknown. They're known only to God. And yet there are those also who are still out there. We know where they are. We can't get them out. They're covered and they're there and they've been there all this time. I would have thought that would be incredible, except for one thing. 30 years ago, I went to Belgium and went to the battlefield of Waterloo. And a guide told us, look out there in that field. There are well over 1,000 that are still out there. The Battle of Waterloo was in June of 1815, and they're still out there. He said most of them are French, but there's some English and Prussians as well out there. So therefore, being lost in that fashion was not a total shock to me. But they're still finding bodies at the Battle of Hurtgen Forest. They're still getting them out. Like I say, there are over 300 as of 2019 that were still out there. But I think about all of them. Those that are in the military cemeteries, those that did get home in flag draped coffins, those that are lost at sea, those that lost in air, and those who are still out there, but not returned. All of them. Now, I've centered this on World War II, but Memorial Day applies not just to World War II, but to all our wars. And there is a message, not just a memorial and a remembrance, but a charge to each of us as to what it means, what they died for. I am now watching on Amazon Prime a series about what happened if we had lost the war. This country was divided three ways. The eastern part of the United States was a part of the German Nazi regime. The western states a part of the Japanese Empire. In between, there's what's called the neutral zone. The neutral zone is lawless. Nobody controls it, it's lawless. But that is the world that this particular series depicts. And it's terrible. What would have happened if we had lost the war? The name of the series is The Man in the High Castle. The Man in the High Castle. And it's on Amazon Prime. It's chilling. But that didn't happen. And we can thank those who died and also those who served and did not die, came back to prevent that. Now there is a poem that was written not about American dead, about British and Canadian dead in another war. I think you're anticipating it. But some of the rest of you probably are too. But I think it speaks not only to the Canadian war dead, but it speaks to our dead as well. And the message is just as appropriate for us as it would be for British and Canadians. It's another war. The poem was written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, MD, John McCrae, MD, Canadian Army. It was written on May the 15th, I don't know the precise date, May of 1915, World War I, at Ypres, Belgium. He wrote this poem. And I want to share it with you because I think it speaks to what I'm talking about. And this particular poem, like I say, applies just as much to our dead and to us as it does to the original recipients of it, Canadians and the British. And I don't think Colonel McCrae would mind me co-opting it. and including it here. It's familiar to probably most of you. I know she knows it. And here we go. I just want you to listen to what it said and listen to the exhortation at the end. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us, who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Barnette. We appreciate it. Do we have questions from the
Jerry wants
audience?
to-
Before I went to visit the battlefield, the battle was actually the longest battle of the Second World War. It started about September 15 and went to December 16, and that's the day that the Battle of the Bulge started. But anyway, I went over and sat down with Ed and looked at all his decorations and talked to him for made a lot of notes. And so he graduated from, I think you told me, he graduated from Davidson, but he didn't go to ROTC, so he had to go to OCS, where I went. And he's really an interesting guy. But so I got all these notes, and he lost the use of his right arm for the rest of his life, and he got the Silver Star. And in my career, I probably met 7 or 8 people with a Silver Star. It's rare. Anyway, it was interesting when I got over there, I didn't have a clue. So I'd bought me a metal detector and an Army entrenching tool, which is a fold-up shovel, and went to this little village that he told me about where they kicked off the attack. And there was maybe 1,000 people lived in the village, but I couldn't find any commercial establishment, just big housing areas. So I drove down in the housing areas and found a bank, went in, found one person that could speak English, and I told her, and I was so frustrated because I said, the battle started right down here, about 1,000 meters down this hill. They didn't know anything about it. That's sad. So anyway, I got this guy that was a German that could speak perfect English. He came over and got me and stayed with me all day long until 8 o'clock that night. But he took me by to meet this farmer. And he was up on his tractor, and he got him down. And, of course, he couldn't speak English, but he translated it. And he told me 2 weeks before that he had uncovered a foxhole that was covered up by, obviously, artillery blasts covering it up, and that there were 2 dead Americans in it in the Pennsylvania Guard, and 28th Division was the Pennsylvania Guard, and buried alive. I'm almost through. But anyway, he said it was amazing to me that they found them. But then the German that was escorting me around, he said, no, we find an American body about once a year.
I want to also talk about Ed Hitt. Before he left the club to move, I think, to Winston-Salem, that's irrelevant right now, but he gave a talk to the club, and he talked about that battle, and I'll always remember. He said when it started, it was a complete surprise, and that he was shot in the arm and laid flat on the ground. And he said, now this was in a forest. He said, when it was all over, there was not a tree left. There was so much firepower coming against them. But that always sticks in my mind.
Judge Barnette, I want to say one thing. You did a great job of a very tough situation. I was not there at that time, but I have walked through Hurricane Forest there. And it was the 16th Regiment was there also, and I was honored and privileged to command a company in 1966 in Vietnam from the 16th Regiment. Thank you for what you did.
But like I say, Lou, you and Gary both said you have been there. You've been to the Hurtgen Forest.
Judge Barnette, let you know, thank you for bringing us up today. My uncle, my father's uncle, was on the Hornet when it first commissioned in 1940, and then he was on that boat when it sunk, and then from that boat he got transferred to Indianapolis. He was on that boat when it sunk. He survived both of them. 900 men went in the war. When Indianapolis went down, 300 came out. Sharks got the rest. He was murdered in 1977 in Beaufort, where he was from. Also, my grandmother's first cousin, Thomas C. Wade, died in Normandy.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to our club. I will tell you, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm sorry, my daughter had PT, but she's going to watch it on the video. So if anybody didn't see it, tell your friends to go to our website. You can see a video of your presentation, and it's a testament to the crowd we have today. We donate a book to the school system. We're going to ask you that you sign it, and we donate it in your honor. Yeah, I'm sorry. Do not look at the title of the books, but this, and here's a pen, so please sign it. They're picking on you. Judge Barnette, what is up with that?
Just anywhere on here?
Oh, right here, where it says in honor of. I'm sorry, that's my notes.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I want to welcome our guest, Emily. Please come back. Celeste, it was a pleasure, great to have you. Please join us again. Jill, please come back anytime. Sanu, thank you. And Pasha, did I say that correctly? Pashoy, I'm so sorry. Please come back and join us again. I also want to say thank you for everyone that signed on. We had a phenomenal crowd online. So it was good to see Phil, John, Jill, Jim, John, Bob, Chris, Rocky, Chris, Hampt, and Harold. Thank you for joining us online. We'd love to see you in person. Please come. Before we adjourn today, I want to tell you who our next speaker is next week. That is Mike Cosley from the North Carolina Department of Insurance. Please join us here, same time. But I would like to ask, in honor of Memorial Day, we did not meet, but I would like everyone to stand who served in our military. Stand for a minute, please. And let's honor our servicemen.
Madam President, a minute ago in membership welfare, I forgot one item, and that is please remember John Collar's brother-in-law who is suffering from cancer. Please remember him in your prayers.
Absolutely, John. Please let us know how to support you during this time. I would also like to close with a moment of silence to remember those, as Judge Barnette spoke about, who are lost at sea and at land, for serving us, for fighting the good fight that we may have the freedoms we have today. So I'm going to adjourn, and please have a moment of silence. Have a fantastic weekend.